Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest installment of LP In Depth. Today, we're here to talk to Alex about Raya and the Last Dragon, the next feature from our friends at the Walt Disney Animation Studios. We're not going to talk about the movie itself, like what we feel about it in terms of, the content of the film. We'll leave that for an upcoming episode of the LP Movie Club. But we want to talk a little bit about the path this movie took and the unique release it's going to have in just a couple weeks. So before we get too far into it, we're going to show you the latest trailer for Raya and the Last Dragon.
All right, guys, remember what we're looking for. And don't trust anyone.
Whoa, what?
Hey, baby. Where are your parents? Hey, who's baby? What? Really? A con baby? Impressive. We could use someone like you. Let's catch you up. My name is Raya. Our lands have been at war for as long as we can remember. Our people never see eye to eye.
My daughter, I believe our people can come together again, but someone has to take the first step.
Now, in order to restore peace, we must find the last dragon.
I wish to join this fellowship of butt-kickery.
Let's go. We'll have to watch our backs. We're not the only ones looking. 6 years of searching. Please let this be it. Oh, mighty Sisu!
Who said that?
We really need your help.
I'm gonna be real with you. I'm not like the best dragon. Have you ever done like a group project, but there's like that one kid who didn't pitch in as much, but still ended up with the same grade?
We're doomed.
You and the dragon are coming with me.
My sword here says we're not. The world's broken. You can't trust anyone.
Maybe it's broken because you don't trust anyone. You just have to take the first step. I just shape changed.
Dragons can do that?
Look how close my butt is to my head. It's gonna make digestion so much faster.
In theaters or ordered on Disney Plus with Premier Access, March 5th.
So just to remind everyone, we're not going to be reviewing the movie. We're not going to be talking about what happens or our thoughts on the film. But Alex did get a chance to meet, to hear from some of the creative team about the film. So we want to just kind of get his perspective and then also talk a little bit, as we saw at the end there, about the split release strategy. So Alex, can you give us the sort of log line? What's this movie about?
It's about a fictional kingdom called Kumandra that long ago there was magic and there were dragons, and due to terrible events, the kingdom got split into different lands that are kind of at war with each other. Basically, the last bit of magic has been stored in this crystal shard, and the main character Raya is tired of living in this fractured world, and so she goes off in search of the last dragon, whose name is Sisu, who she thinks is still around, based on the mythology that has been passed down through about 500 years. So she goes off in search of this dragon, and as you can see in the trailer, she does find her, and things aren't what she thought they were going to be.
So before we get too farther, I just want to say we're doing good. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm great.
And who's that little critter you got on your shoulder there?
This is Tuk Tuk, who I haven't seen the whole entire film yet, but this guy, from what they showed us during the long lead day, really captured my heart. This is specifically baby Tuk Tuk. He's kind of like a a little mammal and a pill bug combined, and he rolls up into a ball. You can kind of see it in some of the footage, but the plush itself has a magnetic clasp, so you can roll him up, or you can make him go the long way. And I fell in love with him. So for me, this little guy is like the Elsa doll, akin to Frozen. Like, I think Baby Tuk Tuk's going to be the plush that's going to be hard to get. I think this is the new Pua.
Oh, he's cute.
He's
Do we know
adorable.
who voices him?
Yes, we do, actually. It's Disney Animation Studios' Good Luck Charm. Alan Tudyk does all of the sounds for Tuk Tuk. He doesn't speak. But he also did Hey Hey in Moana. So he has a type.
Rose says, "Nice to meet you, Baby Tuk Tuk."
He's adorable.
So you got to hear from the creative on the animation side as well as some of the cast, right?
Just on the animation side,
right? So, what was the germ of the idea that kind of helped start this project?
I don't know. They didn't really talk about exactly where the concept came from. It wasn't like Moana, where Ron Clements and John Musker just always had this idea in mind to do a South Island, Pacific Island story. But what this basically evolved into feels like somewhat related to Moana in many ways, but doing what Moana did for Pacific Islands for Southeast Asia. So for the research trip, backing up a little bit before I get too into the research trips, a lot of the best Disney animated films have been based on fairy tales or well-known fables. What they did with Raya and the Last Dragon is it's an original story that incorporates South Asian mythology into it. And so one of the things that's kind of unique, in terms of like medieval culture, think of dragons as being fire-breathing creatures. And in Southeast Asian, dragons are synonymous with water, and they're very snake-like waves. So that's how they're depicted there. So that's one of the things that's kind of different about this is you're probably used to seeing films where dragons are, fire-breathing monsters. And here they're much more peaceful water beings, but still very powerful. So it basically was an effort to tell a story that kind of fit in with that culture. In some ways, it kind of felt like they were trying to recapture Moana's success, but not necessarily, because as you can see from the trailer, Raya is very action heavy, and it's not a musical. And it has a pretty big cast. So I think it instantly sets itself apart. I'm a huge fan of Studio Ghibli. And to me, this kind of reminded me like a cross of Moana meets Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind.
So this project was originally announced at the D23 Expo, I guess the last one, right? And because of what happened in the world, the project was delayed a little bit, but did they talk about how far they were in production when COVID hit and how they had to kind of pivot to accommodate that?
Yeah, actually they did. So Raya and the Last Dragon, as far as they let us know, everything you'll see in the final film was animated from the homes of Walt Disney Studio animation teams. They were about to start animation on what it had become in March when the orders were that everyone had to go home. So it was a huge undertaking. Pixar with Soul, they were far enough in their production pipeline where they only had, I think, 3 or 4 weeks left to finish it from home. And, that was hard enough. But you're talking starting a film with a lot of new technology to make it. They're always creating new ways to tell these stories from a technological aspect. And in Raya and the Last Dragon, you have a lot of water. You have a lot of sand. You have all these different environments, which are not easy to do. You think of like Big Hero 6, they talked a lot about how they had to invent code that could kind of auto-populate a city to make San Francisco feel very dense and deep. And that development ended up helping them on Zootopia, because in the scenes of Zootopia that take place in the city, they were able to use that same kind of code. But for Zootopia, they had to come up with other code called Keep Alive to make all the jungle places look like they were constantly moving and flowing and not just dead stagnant trees. So there was a lot of R&D development to just bring Raya and the Last Dragon to the screen. And so they talked about how challenging that was, having everybody spread out. But at the same time, just how amazing the entire team at Walt Disney Animation Studio was, and their determination to make sure that they could do it and get it out. So it was a cool story. But yeah, every single shot. This isn't the first movie that Disney Animation Studios has made that wasn't animated at the hat building with the hat, but it is the first movie they've ever made that 100% of the shots were done by artists at home.
And what strikes me about that is that when they released the documentary series Into the Unknown, The Making of Frozen 2, you saw how they would get together and kind of pitch things around, and they do test screenings and watch the audience. And, we're all kind of used to Zoom, but it feels like that must be such a struggle just because, it's not as natural when you're on a video call with 30 people. Sometimes the sort of conversation parts, lose a little bit of structure.
Well, and they talked about that too, just the organic conversations that come up between artists and team members at the coffee patch. Or the Caffeine Patch, which is the name of the coffee bar named after the patch that makes that lady scream in Meet the Robinsons. And, just having that, or even, bumping into somebody in the hallway and just being able to say, hey, I'm having a hard time with this, and someone else spitting out a couple ideas and it being the solution to the problem. They talked about that being one of the biggest challenges with creating the film from home. But at the same time, they also had that. I will say for Raya and the Last Dragon, typically Disney's writing team is mostly in-house. For Raya and the Last Dragon, they did bring a couple of writers in from out of house, Adele Lim and Qui Nguyen, I think is how you pronounce it. Both take the screenplay credit on the film, and I believe both worked on Crazy Rich Asians. So I believe they brought in some outside talent to help with creating the story for Raya and the Last Dragon, which isn't, they still did their typical, we have a story team, we are doing storyboards, all that still happened, but there were more screenwriters, I guess, on this film than you typically see from Disney.
Was there something that you learned, like one fun fact that, really stuck with you from the long lead?
Well, in the same way that the film was animated from home, most of the dialogue had to be recorded from home. And so for a lot of the voice cast, it was, simple, like getting them audio equipment and having them go in a closet, because closets typically have the best acoustics in a house, and record from there. But the one that proved really challenging was Awkwafina, who was in Australia filming Marvel's
Eternals.
Oh, she's in Eternals.
Oh, or sorry, was it
something in the Nine Realms?
Yeah, Shang-Chi and the Nine Rings.
Nine Rings. So she was in Australia filming a movie for Marvel, and the house that she was living in for that shoot did not have good acoustics, so they ended up having to set up like a recording studio in a tent in her living room. So when you eventually see that Marvel movie, just know that while she was at home in her rental house in Australia, she was recording dialogue for Sisu in Raya and the Last Dragon. So that was cool. Also things like, from the beginning, they wanted Awkwafina for that part. They were kind of writing the character with her in mind. This is something very similar to what Disney did for Robin Williams in Aladdin. They kind of wrote the part of the genie with Robin Williams in mind, not knowing if they could actually get him. So they wrote the part of Sisu for Awkwafina, not knowing if they could actually get her. And they got her, I think they cast her before Crazy Rich Asians came out. I think she had filmed it, but it hadn't been released. So they like to take credit for finding, Lin-Manuel Miranda for Moana before Hamilton came out. And so they're kind of taking credit for finding Awkwafina before Crazy Rich Asians really made her into a household name. I think she was, obviously a comedian and a comedic actress before then, but she really took off from that film.
Okay, so before we get further, Disney did release a featurette with some of the folks from the creative team. So let's check out how they crafted Raya and the Lost Dragon.
Why are you here? divine water dragon.
Isn't that obvious, big guy? My girl Raya and I are gonna fix the world.
Let's catch you up.
It is so exciting to be the first Southeast Asian Disney princess. It is a big deal. Raya is one of the fiercest characters.
In Raya and the Last Dragon, we were inspired by things about Southeast Asia to create a wholly original story and fantasy world called Kumandra.
This land used to be inhabited by mystical dragons, which brought magic and harmony. But over time, the land split apart.
Our lands have been at war for as long as we can remember.
And now she's on this mission to bring this world back together with this ragtag group of misfits.
I wish to join this fellowship of butt-kickery.
The animation on this movie is on a totally different level, and it's amazing. When you think that this movie was animated from home,
it's incredible. You know, we have a crew of 400 plus people.
We were animating, lighting, having story meetings. All of that was done from everyone's home with dogs and cats and babies.
It could only have happened because everybody is passionate about the films we make, and they brought that. I mean, the movie is, I think, one of our most beautiful films.
You and the dragon are coming with me.
My sword here says we're not.
I have the honor of being one of the martial arts consultants on the film. I got to incorporate the knowledge I had from Southeast Asian martial arts into those fight sequences. You see weapons get pulled out from Raya that are Screama that come from the Philippines. When you see Raya fall into a fight stance, you could go, that's our niece. That's Muay Thai. That's Krabi Krabong.
the level of action in this movie is pretty tight. It's pretty tight.
The world's broken. You can't trust anyone.
I think the themes of this movie are so relevant.
Maybe it's broken because you don't trust anyone.
Learning how to find the goodness in the world, I think, is such a beautiful, important message. I really just can't wait for people to see it.
So we did have a question here from Rose. Said that I heard that it will be on Disney Plus with Premiere Access. Do I have to pay to watch it? So the short answer is yes. This is taking what they call like the hybrid strategy. So it will be released to theaters in March on March 5th, but it will also be available the same date on Disney Plus with Premiere Access. So for additional $29.99, you'll have access to the film, similar to what they did with the live-action Mulan last year. This is different than Soul, which was released to everybody on Christmas. For those that have a Disney Plus subscription, it will be available to everybody on June 4th.
And you can actually already purchase the Disney Plus Premiere Access add-on. So if you're in Disney Plus and you search Raya and the Last Dragon, it'll have the movie like it's there. When you click it, it says you can pay now the $29.99. The equivalent of if you were two people seeing it in a movie theater, it's about what you pay. And you can watch it as many times as you want with Premiere Access.
And pro tip, if you do buy Premiere Access, save the email, go to Disney Movies Insiders, and you can still get points as if you were buying a ticket to see it at theaters.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
So, we talked before about how, Disney has these, well, now two animation studios with Pixar and Disney Animation, and they keep churning along. Regardless, it's not like a movie where you hire a crew and you make a movie, so they're going to be working regardless, unless they put them all on furlough, which probably, isn't what Disney wants to do. So you can only hold these movies for so long. It's not like, you just will make fewer next year because you already have the employees working. So, there's a need to get this film out there. But what are your opinions on the hybrid strategy of theaters plus Premiere Access?
I think during these times, especially, it's nice. I mean, we already saw, first of all, Raya has already been delayed a little bit, partially due to story changes, which saw the recasting of the lead actress, which became Marie Tran in the end. But I mean, Black Widow, as a good example, was due out last May. That film is done. Like, it's in the can. It's coming out this May. And I like that this hybrid strategy at least allows the studios to get the movies out. As you can see from everything we've shown in the trailer and in that behind the scenes piece, Raya is a really cool action movie. It's very beautiful. It's a wide format movie. It's not your typical TV ratio. It's got to have the black bars on top and bottom when you're watching it at home and watching it on the bigger screen. I prefer seeing movies like this in the theater. That would be my preference if it were safe to do that. But where we live, movie theaters aren't open now. They have like 2 weeks to get open in order for us to be able to see it on the big screen here. And I don't know that I personally feel comfortable going to the big screen to a movie theater, with other people, given everything that's going on. Maybe once I have a vaccine, I'll feel that way. But I'm not on that list yet. So I like the hybrid strategy. I don't think the price is a bad price. At least I know movie prices vary regionally, but where we live, even I think for a matinee, our 2 tickets would total $30. I think the before 4 price or 5 price would still be like $12.95 or something, be right around $13.
And there is something special coming to those that do go to a theater. They're going to get a chance to see a short, and I believe I got a still of that.
So a brand new short from Walt Disney Animation Studios, only available in theaters, but it will come to Disney Plus later. It's just not available with the Premier Access version.
And it's directed by Zach Parrish, who did, I believe, Puddles. And it's the Short Circuit film. He was also the head of animation Big Hero 6. And he worked with award-winning choreographers and dancers, Keonade Marie, who were a performer. I guess it's like a team, and they're from World of Dance, and they've worked with folks like Justin Bieber and Billie Eilish, and with composer Pinar Toprock, who you may remember from Captain Marvel. She did a great episode of the Four Scores podcast. If you have a chance to check that out. Disney Animation President Clark Spencer said, "We're thrilled to be premiering our first new theatrical short in 5 years, Us Again, exclusively on the big screen, alongside our incredible new feature, Raya and the Last Dragon. Zach has tapped into elements from his personal life and collaborated with the very best in the world of dance and music to create this very special film. We are so proud of what they have accomplished and look forward to sharing it with movie theater goers in March and then in June on Disney+." And I think another thing that's important here is Jennifer Lee, the chief creative officer over at Disney Animation, said, "One of my priorities has been to bring back theatrical animated shorts and to give artists at our studio an opportunity to explore new ideas." So, we kind of wondered, shorts have seemed to kind of wane. They did Short Circuits and Spark Shorts, but just sort of that go to a Disney or Pixar movie and see a short seemed to stop. But we got Burrow with Soul, which was on Disney Plus, but kind of came out together. And then Us Again will be coming theatrically. And then when Raya is available for everyone on Disney Plus, they will be releasing this short on Disney Plus as well. I haven't seen it, but Alex will have full coverage of his review of Raya, as well as Us Again on March 1st. So stay tuned for that. So anything else you want to share about either Us Again or Raya?
Well, I mean, just, we saw a little bit in that teaser, like with Moana, they established a story trust of people from Southeast Asia. We saw that one martial arts expert who really influenced a lot of the style of the movements and even the weapons that you see. The research trip that the team took went to Laos, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Malaysia, and Singapore. And I will say, from the footage I've seen, food comes into play. And so my recommendation, if you're able to, would be to get takeout. If you're doing the Disney Plus Premier Access, get takeout from your local Thai or Vietnamese restaurant, and kind of broaden your flavors that way. I know where we live, we have a couple options, but where I grew up in the Midwest, I don't think there was anything other than, Chinese and Japanese food. So, obviously depends on where you are in the world, but I think that would be a cool way to make your Raya and the Last Dragon Disney Premier Access experience special, would be to be also savoring the flavors of Southeast Asia while you enjoy the film, kind of make a bigger night out of it. And also get yourself a baby tuk-tuk.
Baby tuk-tuk.
On Shop Disney. He's the cutest.
It's always funny to me when you see these things. The Shop Disney stuff comes like usually 2 months before the movie comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have no idea what you're looking at.
Well, and I was going to say, like, I had the luxury of seeing, the long lead stuff before the merchandise hit. But then the merchandise hit, and I'm like, oh, there's a lot of spoilers here. But then in the newest trailer, they basically reveal those same spoilers. So I was just, but, that's one of the double-edged sword of the merchandising piece of these films. And they showed so much restraint with Baby Yoda, but they couldn't show that same restraint with Raya and the Last Dragon. So
maybe there's even bigger spoilers to come. Like everyone, well, I'll get into
I'm sure there's bigger spoilers, but, initially what they told you, you didn't know that characters could change their form. But now there's dolls of them in different forms.
So we come to the end of that part of our program, but we always take this opportunity to talk about what's coming to LP in the coming week. And I'm going to be honest, there's a lot, but also not so much. So tomorrow, Jeremiah will be at Animal Kingdom, to check out what they're doing for Raya and the Last Dragon, including new sand sculpture. And at Animation Academy, learn how to draw a little tuk-tuk. So cute.
So adorable.
And LP Movie Club tomorrow is for
Flora
and Ulysses, the Disney Plus movie, which I cannot recommend enough. If you haven't seen it yet, watch it today or tomorrow, and then join us tomorrow night at 7:30 Pacific as we discuss that film and all its wonderful synergistic moments. And then we've got the normal stuff like Marvel Time, where they're going to talk about that fantastic episode of WandaVision and so much more. So, as we do every week, what did you enjoy the most from last week? What was your Disney highlight from last week?
Specifically, can I say a WandaVision spoiler?
I think at this point you can say a WandaVision spoiler.
The highlight of last week was the song. It was Agatha All Along.
You took mine. That is absolutely the highlight. And I can't even say in good conscience that, okay, I'll pick another one, because it is still, and what I appreciated about it was Marvel fans knew it was Agatha all along. They didn't hide it very well. They were pretty clear about it. Auntie-A references. She wore that brooch. I mean, it was pretty. I mean, her name was literally Agnes, and Agatha.
And she was a witch for Halloween.
Right. Yeah. So it was pretty clear, and I think they kind of threw a curveball last week. We're like, oh, maybe there's more, but we all knew who she was. But the way they revealed it, it was awesome, because for the fans who knew, it was still amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the people who aren't fans, it was like an awesome reveal, who might not know what every comic reference is. And that's what I think is fun about the show, is you can enjoy it. There's so much there for deep comic fans, but you don't need to really, you don't need to be a huge fan to appreciate the show.
Yeah, I'm just going to say I never even knew there was a Marvel witch named Agatha, but so excited.
Although I do say, you know how I feel about dogs?
Mm-hmm. And Sparky, I want justice.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, so here's something I saw on the internet. I will pull it up.
Your clicks are so loud.
Sorry. Here we go. If you remember the Endgame posters.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? We may get justice for Sparky.
Miss him.
So if that was our favorite from last week, what are we looking forward to most this week?
What is like? All I can think about this week is what I'm doing. But Myth: A Frozen Tale, which was a short that Walt Disney Animation Studios created for VR last year, it's coming to Disney Plus on Friday the 26th. It is they've done like a flat streaming version, so it just plays like a normal short. But tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time, I have a piece that's publishing all about the behind the scenes of that film. Jeff Gibson was the director. He did Cycles, which was Disney Animation Studios' first VR short as part of the Short Circuit program. Brittany Lee did all of the artistic development, and she is famous for her paper sculptures. There have been like whole bonus features about her paper design sculptures, and she's kind of famous in that field beyond Walt Disney Animation Studios. So that piece is coming up tomorrow. I do recommend checking it out. It was very much inspired by Fantasia, but obviously set within the Frozen world. So I think everyone's really going to enjoy that. It's a very relaxing short.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen VR, and I haven't seen it in 2D yet, so I look forward to checking that out.
It made me really want to check it out in VR because they talked a lot at that press junket about how in the VR space, like when Bruni comes up to you, it feels like you could pick him up and scoop him up in your hand. But like when the knock comes, it's like this big presence next to you, whereas on screen, it's just like, okay, you're zooming in on Bruni, and now you've got this like wider shot of the knock, so it doesn't have that same amount of like closeness, without the stereoscopic element.
What I'm most looking forward to, and what I cannot wait, and it's going to be a long week. I need the penultimate episode of WandaVision. Maybe because there's so many ways it could go. I mean, I loved every episode. But I felt like after last week, like you just felt like no when the episode closed. Once it says "Please stand by," your heart breaks a little bit because episodes are fairly short. They're all about if you take out the credits and the previously on, it's about half hour. Usually these action shows are a little bit longer than that. So, not judging, not complaining, but I just can't wait to find out where this is going to go. So I know I'm a broken record, but I cannot wait for the next episode of WandaVision.
And I would also say, if you haven't yet watched The Muppet Show on Disney Plus, I
watched The Muppet Show as a kid, but like I never watched them in order because you just watch whatever was on TV at the time.
Yeah, and see the evolution of Gonzo and Piggy in particular, who are very rough in the beginning, and then get more well-rounded as they go.
and it kind of starts as like a vaudeville with a little bit of backstage stuff, and they kind of de-emphasize the sort of structure of it a little bit as it keeps going, so it becomes a little bit more zany as time goes on, which it's the Muppets. So this show will not be here next week because we got the Golden Globes. So we're going to be watching that. And then Lee and I will probably be back, probably with Alex too, to discuss what happened at the Golden Globes from a Disney perspective. And then we will be back on March 7th, 2021, obviously. And we'll probably talk a little bit about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't know what we'll know at that point, but we'll start getting excited for that upcoming new show from Disney and Marvel, since we will have just seen the end of WandaVision. We'll be ready to look forward to whatever's coming next. So with that, anything to say before we wrap up?
No, thank you guys for, tuning in and participating in the chat. And, excited. I'm excited to see all of Raya and the Last Dragon. And we'll have some more behind the scenes pieces coming to Laughing Place.
And don't forget, 9 a.m., Alex's Myth piece. At 10 o'clock, we've got Jeremiah at Disney's Animal Kingdom. So thanks so much for joining us, and have a great day. Bye, Alex.